welcome to Heart, Mia Moore with your host,
Hey y'all, it's Elle.
and I'm Coach Charletta. Well, it's wonderful to be back again to have a nice conversation with you guys. And our topic for tonight is parenting from a wounded place. It's a heavy topic. So, you got any questions from me?
Questions for you?
Yeah.
As far as like parenting from a wounded place?
Yes, because I could talk about that because I did it naturally. You know, I didn't think anything was wrong, but
Yeah, that was gonna be my
now
question.
that I know better, I realize, yeah, I was parenting from a wounded place. But we came up with some questions, so feel free, look at your questions, ask me some questions, because I sure have some for you. So let's roll.
All right. How do you manage the feelings of inadequacy as a parent stemming? I can't talk today. Stemming from your past experiences.
Oh, that's a good question. The inadequacy. The inadequacy for me has been a major thing. And I feel like this when it comes to feeling inadequate. Prior to getting married to your father and having you, I was a single mom. And one of the things I never wanted was to have a child out of wedlock and not be in a relationship with the father. So with that being said, I already felt inadequate because the relationship didn't work. So I kind of felt like I had to overdo because the dad wasn't there in her life like that. So I felt like I had to be mom. I had to be dad. I had to make sure that she didn't like anything. My own hurts, my own disappointments, a lot of those things I put to the back burner because my focus was I didn't want her to feel rejected because her father wasn't there. So I was trying to overcompensate. I knew what it was like for me growing up, having both of my parents. My dad, he was a meat cutter prior to going into business for himself. So most days, you know, when I got up in the morning, dad was going to work. And when I went to bed, dad wasn't home yet. So sometimes, although both parents can be present, you know, a child can feel like, you know, you're missing something from one of your parents. And I didn't want her to feel like she was missing something because her dad wasn't active in her life. And I just tried to do things different from the way I was raised. I just tried to give her an open door. She could talk to me about anything. I always, even with you, you know, y'all could talk to me about anything, long as it's respectful. Don't come across disrespectful, because I'm a big proponent of do not be disrespectful.
So what is disrespect to you? Because I feel like everybody has a different view of disrespect. Because disrespect comes from like how you view disrespect is from like your own life experiences. So how do you define disrespect?
For me, the way I grew up, that's a good question. Because how I view disrespect, you're right, everybody don't see it that way. How I grew up, okay, a child stays in the child's space.
What is that? I don't know what that is.
That means if adults are talking, you are not talking. When you walk in the room, you say hello to everybody. There is a way to say something, even if it's a concern on your heart to your parent, but do not come off, well, it's like this and you rolling your neck. No. That's a hard no. But find a way to express your hurt and your disappointment. Although I never really knew how to do that. You know, I'm learning how to do that up in age. So that was an issue in itself. In having boundaries, because I really didn't understand boundaries either. So trying to teach your child something that you really knew you couldn't cross lines with your parents because, you know, if you crossed lines, what was disrespectful, if you talked back to them, that was disrespect. Your head was going to roll. There was no ifs, ands, and buts about it. So talking back, that was a definite no, but I tried, like I said, I tried to give you guys space to be able to say what you needed to say to me. I might not have always, I ain't gonna say I might not, I wasn't always the best at it. It's gotten better now that I've been on my journey of healing and being able to acknowledge the woundedness in me, that I now try to correct and share with you guys my experiences of my errors and how I'm trying to fix it so you guys can fix it in your life. So.
With that, at what point did you realize that, like, we were just doing what we were seeing and throwing what you were saying out of the window? How did you handle that? Like, with us growing up, with us just mimicking you, how did you feel about seeing us do what you were doing? How did that make you feel?
I had to fix it. I felt like I had to fix it. I had to correct it. And no, don't do this because it's not right for me. You know, it made me really reflect on myself and the things that I needed to fix in me, but I didn't know how to fix in me at that time. I just knew I didn't want you to repeat the same thing because I wanted you to have a healthier life, a better life for yourself. So that's what I did. But I got a question for you.
Okay.
You ready, girl?
I don't know. Maybe.
Now, I know, you know, right now you're young, you're in your 20s, you're a single parent, you're a single person, not parent. Y'all, she ain't no parent. Okay. But take one day you're going to be a parent.
Take it back.
That's what I meant to say.
Do not speak that on me. Oh.
Okay. So one day you're going to be a parent, right?
I'm listening.
So my question to you is, when it comes to parenting, the question I wanted to ask you, it was one with dealing with generational things. Is it possible to break the cycle of generational trauma within the family through your parenting style? Do you think it's possible to do that? And okay, I'm gonna let you ask that because I can roll on that one right now.
Yes, absolutely. For me, what happens in this house stays in this house is not an option in my family. When I have kids, that's not something that is going to be enforced. Like, yes, there are some things that are everybody's business, but understanding, teaching them, like, no, this is something that, like, oh no, if it happens within the family, like, you know, you can talk about it, it's fine, but there are some just circumstances that, you know, that's family business. But as far as, like, if something's hurting you or something's going on that you see is very clearly wrong, that it's not computing in your little brain, talk to someone about it. You know, don't just hold it in, because I feel like that's a generational curse in a lot of families, that what happens in this house stays in this house. So you've got kids, trigger warning, going through kids being molested, kids being, you know, abused, neglected, like, but they're not telling anybody because what happens in this house stays in this house.
That's very true. So, and I can agree and attest to that, because in my life now, that is very much so a pet peeve of mine. But I feel like as I've researched over, where did that come from? You know, who said it? How did it begin? And I often wonder, did it occur in slavery? Because you couldn't say everything out there in front of the master, because people was going to be hurt if you said some of the stuff we was planning or we were trying to get away. So I think some things were probably created for a reason to protect, but then it just continued on, and it just covered so much darkness in families. And that darkness continued to perpetuate for generations. And I'm glad you said that one. What goes in the house stays in the house. That's definitely out the door for me. And it's one of those things that I talk to your sister. These are things I want to see healed in you guys before you have kids, because I want my grandkids to have a healthier lifestyle. Um, so I like where you came from with that one. You got another question for me?
Um, hmm. How do I prevent my own childhood traumas from negatively impacting my parenting style?
How do you prevent your own childhood traumas? First, you got to recognize you had traumas. Because for some people, like for real, it is very true. Things can be so traumatic in your life that you hide it in your subconscious. Like you make a vow to yourself, I don't ever want to remember that thing again. And you like literally forget it until something happens and it triggers that spot in your life. And then you're wondering, well, dog, why I'm acting like this? Why is it, you know, was it really that bad? So, how do I prevent my childhood traumas from affecting me negatively in my parenting style? You got to know it. You got to recognize it. You got to work on your healing. When you don't work on your healing, although you're trying to prevent those things, I can give a prime example for me. My mom was a teen mom and wife. She had me at 17. So I was taught about her being a teen mom. So my goal became, because it was always said to me not to become a teen mom. And what happened was
became a teen mom.
I became a teen mom, not at 17, but 19. I was like, well, dog, I made it 2 more years. But
it skipped you, but it hit me. So don't get too heavy.
But I didn't really deal with where did it come from. And the majority of the time, now that we talk about it, it was the negative conversations that we were hearing. So those things were tearing us down. And my mom, she loved me, but she really didn't know how to talk to me to build that confidence, to build that self-esteem, because I was a doer. She didn't really think my confidence and my self-esteem was being torn down. And a lot of things I experienced, once again, what goes on in this house stays in this house. It didn't just apply to your parents' house. It applied to grandmama's house, auntie house, and everybody else's house. And because I dealt with the negative things that was being said to me by my relatives, I never said anything to my mom or my dad. I wasn't going to say that to my dad anyway, because I didn't want my dad like go off on somebody. So I internalized all of that within myself, and it was just wanting to feel love. You know, I knew my dad loved me. I knew my mom loved me, but it was still something they're missing. And we'll talk about it because on one of our other shows, we're going to talk about that self-love and that healing journey. But I felt like those traumas impacted my life. Like many people deal with the trauma of repeated molestation in the family. And all molestations are not outside of the family. A lot of them are within the family. And that's a really hard wound that many people deal with.
Yeah.
And they don't talk about it. So when it comes to trying to talk about it, what they say is, let dead dogs lie.
Well, we're going to let that dead dog lie for a second while we go to commercial break, and then we'll be right back.
Hey, you. Yes, you. I know life is lifing, and sometimes you feel like, what am I going to do? Well, listen, when you feel like, hey, I'm stuck, I don't know how to get from here to there, well, guess what? Give me a call. Coach Charletta at Masterpiece Services and Solutions at 904-274-0947. Let's work together. Let's find the tools that will help you come up with solutions to your problem. And we're back.
Y'all, that was heavy. I don't know about y'all, but I needed a break. It was very heavy, getting very, very heavy. But it is very true. A lot of those things definitely happen in the families that don't get talked about very much, and it gets swept under the rug. And I feel like that's something that most families need to address. And if your kids are saying something is not right, something's not sitting right, watch how your kids or even other family members react to certain people. Another thing that you asked about with kids, how I would raise my kids, something in my house. If I have to tell you, hey, go put some pants on because so-and-so is coming over, that person does not need to be in the house. If it's to a point where I'm like, no, you need to go change what you're wearing in your house to accommodate this person, that person does not need to be in the house. Because it is obviously something that has been taken into consideration. They don't need to be around kids. Or even in the house, period. Because
but that also
I know me, I look good in orange.
That also brings in another place of woundedness. Where families knew family members acted a certain way, and they would say, oh, that's just how Uncle Johnny act. Oh, that's just how Auntie Sally act. Oh, that's just how they are. And you're giving them a pass for the negative things that cause wound in your own life, and you're allowing those same wounds now, although you think you're protecting your child, you're hurting your child in another way. So it does affect your parenting style. And that's one thing that I learned as a parent. Although I was trying to protect, I was creating other wounds. I was creating other hurts. Although I was feeling like I was keeping you from certain things that happened in the generation, I wasn't really doing the best because I didn't know. I was just trying to do different. But even in doing my different, I was still causing pain. And so that is one big thing that occurs in families. The hurt of your offender in the family. And you don't address your offender. You know, everybody just walks on eggshells. Or
have panic attacks.
You can have panic attacks, but nobody thinks about, although you're trying to protect that family member, and this is real, y'all. And I know I've been facing Elle and talking to Elle, but I'm talking to y'all right now. Ignoring that family member, you're making that young person feel like they're more important than them. And you're making them feel like it was their fault with what happened to them. And it's not their fault because somebody didn't know how to control themselves. And these are things that we have to address even within ourselves as parents. And sometimes we don't address them because we were a victim ourselves. And even facing those things, it's not an easy thing, but it's work. And you have to put in that work to bring that healing so that you can bring healing to your child, so that you can bring healing to your family, so that you can begin to address these things. Like I asked Elle the question about breaking generational things. You have to acknowledge it, accept that it's there, and then you got to work on it and be willing to work on it. So I'm going to say to y'all, hey, if you find yourself in this spot and it's real, it might spark some conversations among the family. Don't be afraid to have it.
It's going to be uncomfortable.
It's going to be uncomfortable. Some going to get mad, but those who get mad, let them get mad. And those who want help, y'all work together and bring healing to the family. Because it's time out. We need healthier families today. The world is crazy by itself. So with that said, I'm going to get off my soapbox. Okay, yeah, so let's go.
No, that's real. And sometimes like offenders, it sometimes it's kids on kids and you don't think anything of it. Like in my situation, for years, like, and nobody thought anything of it because, oh, we're close like that. Like they, as a group of kids, we all were all together. We were always together. We was always in each other's bubbles. So nobody thought anything of it. But it wasn't everything what it seemed. And it was just like, for me, it was just, you know, and I was one that I didn't want to stir the pot because I like having you around. You're cool people. And I would always like be like, oh no, but they're so kind and they're so nice and they're so fun to be around. But also not so fun.
But that typically happens that you begin to see your offender in a different light. You start pushing the negative and you start focusing more on the positive. And another thing that I thought about is when kids, and especially when it's kids on kids, a lot of times parents are like, why are you acting out? Why are you doing this? Well, they're acting out because something is happening somewhere. And you got to get to that place of talking about it, but providing that safe space for the child to feel like they could talk about it. Like we talked about it in one of the other episodes, how I would always say to you guys, you and your sister, and all my other children I didn't birth, you can talk to me about anything. But depending on what it is, I might snap for a minute. But give me that second to regroup, because it may be a very heavy topic, and allow you to be able to deal with it and talk about it. When I think about parenting from woundedness, I said my mom was a teen parent. And it hurt my grandmother that my mom got pregnant as a teen because she was doing so well in school. And when I became a teen parent, it hurt my mom. But my mom always said my grandmother showed her so much love. And so what she did for me, she showed me so much love. That love in itself is a generational breaker, because so many people don't know how to show love within a family. It's so much chaos.
Especially with teen pregnancies, typically what you see is people getting put out or disowned or forced to, have abortions or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that love thing is definitely different.
It's different, and it's very important that we do that. So let's talk about what resources are available for yourself as a young adult that one day wants to be a parent. What resources do you utilize to assist you on your healing journey as you prepare yourself to one day be a parent? What tools do you use?
Books. I'm one of those people. I have to read books. If it's something that I want to do, even if it's not right now, I'm gonna read about it. So I've read at least 3 books on marriage. I've read like 2 books on kids. Like, I like to read, but also learning the attachment styles and your love languages, and doing it more than once, because your love languages change every couple of years, or even every year, because a lot can happen in 365, 66 odd days, So constantly doing that and doing those things, but also taking time to, check in with myself and how I feel about certain situations. Like, I'm not going to talk to someone if I have to be like, can I see myself marrying this person? Can I see myself having a mini of them running around here? Would I be okay with that? And if the answer is no, then you got to go. And even like with myself, like, would I be okay with having a mini me at this current state? Would I be okay with that? And if it's a no, then you got work to do.
Right. Those are good questions to ask yourself and to reflect on. When you talked about the love languages, that was one thing I really love that they have the books now, because they have the love languages for the kids and for the teens. And like you said, our love languages change periodically. None of us stay the same. So knowing that you have these tools available, and that's, I think it's a Gary Chapman. If you guys want to look him up on Amazon, he has many books on the love languages, and that's a great tool to utilize with raising your kids, with working on yourself as a part of your healing journey, because we're the ones that stop the curses to create healthier families. And that's what we want. We don't want to continue a generation of pain. We want to continue a generation of love, of being healthy, mind, body, soul, and spirit. We want to be healthy in every aspect of our lives. And that's what we want to work on, so that we're no longer parenting from a wounded place. And what I would say about wounds, we talk about childhood traumas, but honestly, we get wounded every day. We will face some type of trauma. We will face some type of pain. So we're always in that journey of healing and working on ourselves, so that we're providing a space for us, but also for our family, for our children, like I try to provide for you. And I'm always saying to you and your sister, heal, because I want my grandkids to be healed. And I'm going to tell you, what really has me on this healing thing right now is I read an article the other day, y'all, and it talked about the families they followed from the Holocaust and how trauma has even passed on to their kids through their genes. So we don't think, oh, it's just what I went through. It's not affecting me. It's not affecting my kids. But yeah, it's affecting you and your kids. So it should be more of an inspiration now, understanding that through science, they are finding that our traumas is being passed down, that we should take it upon ourselves to truly work on ourselves so that we give our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, and everyone else beyond us a healthier chance at life. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to ask me? Because I'm being an open book. You know, any other time we talk about anything and everything.
Yeah. Not really. I mean, just to wrap everything up, that was really heavy. Definitely talking about kids and stuff. If you've seen that episode, you understand. I like this topic. It's definitely a topic that is definitely needed, especially like in my generation.
And mine. I think all generations.
Really all generations, yeah. But I know I can speak like our generation. My generation is very big on, we want to be better. Like, we want our kids to be better than we are. And in that, like, there's a saying that I'm going to heal so that my kids don't have to heal from me, from having me as a parent, because I don't want to traumatize my kids. I mean, y'all going to be traumatized anyway, but in like the best ways, you know, like, because there are good traumas, you know, like it's not really trauma. It's more of like a memory, like creating these good memories and these core memories. Because traumas are core memories. They're just not the good ones.
Right.
But creating these core memories instead of having these traumas or negative events. But at the same time, I am a very big proponent of, if protecting my peace and protecting myself makes me the villain in your story, then I will gladly be the villain.
That's good. Because
I'm going to hold you accountable the same way I hold myself accountable. And if that makes me the villain, then I'll be the villain.
That's good. So like Elle said, we've talked about a lot. And hopefully we've stirred some things within your hearts, and that there are conversations in your families. And it is our desire that through these conversations, that conversations are stirred and that families are healed. So with that said, we thank you for joining us. And as always, we're signing off from Heart to Heart, me or more, from our heart to your heart. Until next time.